Hi everybody, it's Taylor. I want to talk today just a little bit about some things that were on my mind. Specifically, I want to talk about failure and how we can learn to fail in a good way. Failure itself can be such a good teacher, and we're going to experience so much of it in life that if we can't start to use it, then it's going to slowly start to cripple us. So we have to learn how to fail the right way. And so I'm going to talk about 3 principles of how we can fail the right way. The first one that I want to talk about is what to do when you fail. Now, getting up will mean very little in the long run if we only get up to keep making the same mistakes. When I was learning to snowboard, my dad took us up. I must have been 12, maybe 13 at the time, and he put me on a snowboard that was way too big for me. And he put me at the top of the hill, and I fell and fell and fell and fell and fell. And I kept getting back up and just hopping right on and trying to get down the hill. And when I finally got to the bottom, I remember my dad, who was actually just genuinely laughing at me, he taught me that you have to keep the toe edge or the heel edge up, whatever side is facing down the hill. If it catches at all, it throws you right into the ground. And I had done that from the top of the hill all the way to the bottom. I've seen people do this in their lives, and it's painful to watch. You see people make the same mistakes over and over and over again. And while I have to give them credit for getting back up again, I have to also take that same credit back when they make the exact same mistake in the exact same way. So we have to learn from our mistakes. If we don't take the time to look at why we're falling, why we're failing in these situations, to actually look inward and figure out what we can do about it, and then change something because of that, then our failure means nothing, and eventually it cripples us. When I got to the bottom of the hill snowboarding, I had fallen so many times that I had snow all the way down the back of my coat. It was everywhere. I was soaking wet, I was freezing cold, and I had bashed every bone in my body against some piece of ice or tree somewhere at that point in time. So the faster you can learn from it, the better off you can be. Now, the second thing that I want to talk about is that you can't plan to fail, but you can have a plan for overcoming failure. Now, I see a lot of people who go into situations and they fully expect to not do well there. And those people never do great. Your expectation cannot be just to fail, but you have to be okay with the possibility of it. So when you go into a situation where failure is likely, where it's possible, know the risk of that failure. And secondly, don't be afraid to ask for help if failure does come up. You have to be aware of those. So you can't plan to be a failure, but have a plan to overcome it when it does happen to you. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about is that success isn't a location, it is a process that we get engaged in. So people who look at failure as a mountain that they have to climb, they're never going to get the full benefit out of it. We become successful, we become highly successful when we learn how to fail, when we can fail safely, carefully, precisely, and then get up and step forward. There is no point in our lives where we will stop failing. If you look at people who succeed in business, in sports, in anything, after every single game, after every single business acquisition or loss or anything, there's always some failure in there, and they are always acknowledging that and talking about how they're going to step forward. You'll never get away from failure. Accept that it's a part of life and plan to do it safely. So remember to get up, but don't just get up, learn from it and move forward. Continue on that path. Allow failure to come in. Failure's not bad. You're only a failure when you stop. Second, you can't plan to fail, but you can have a plan to overcome failure. And third and last of all is that Success is not a location. It's not a stopping point in your life or a plateau that you reach. It is a process that you get involved in. It's a pattern that you live your entire life after. So figure out a way to get yourself into that pattern and then consistently live in it. And success surrounds you at that point. You don't just reach success, you become it. So figure out how to become it. Learn from those mistakes and constantly get better because of your failure.